guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is gonna be the wrap up, the big wrap up, the literally one time a month you see me. But this month was really good because I stopped working, so I had more time to read. But I also went to school, so I had less time to read. But like I digress. Shut up, Amy. This month in August, I read 21 books basically. I'm just counting the 21st because it's basically finished. Okay. I'm stressed. I don't know if you can hear me because our AC is broken. So we have like a portable, really loud AC. I already had one this morning, but now that I was a barista, I just enjoy coffee more. So yeah. And then this is just medium roast coffee that I put in the fridge. It's basically iced coffee. We just finished hurricane watch basically. The biggest amount of rain we got was like sprinkles. This is pumpkin spice non-dairy creamer. Perfect. I've got no classes Friday. I've got to do some notes, and then Sunday I'm seeing Five Sauce, so that's my Labor Day weekend plans. First book that I read in August was The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. I actually love this book. I gave this a 4.75. I read this right after I read Hello Stranger last month, and like I knew everyone liked this book, and I was like, oh my god, this book's really good. I think I like this better than Hello Stranger. I just think the romance was like, it was more romance focused, but I also liked like the aspect of her being like a bodyguard basically. I was just like, that's fun, and he's like rich and famous, so like it's like the best. Oh yeah, I really liked Hannah, but like the side character plot in this book was like crazy. I was actually like, I loved Hannah because I loved how the way she like played it out, especially for like her best friend doing that to her. So I was just like, thank God Hannah's like, she has standards. So good job, Hannah. Next, I read Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare. I gave this 4.25. I haven't read the other books in the series, but I liked it, and it was like nice to go back to my roots of like being in the shadow world. So that was good. Next, I read Behind the Net by Stephanie Archer. I gave this 3.75. It was a hockey romance, had a bunch of spice in it. Like, it was like to the point where it was like so much spice that like it ruined the plot of the book. So I think I would now rate it down to like 3.25, 3.5. It's just not my cup of tea. Like, I don't think about this book ever again. I don't even know the characters' names. I have nothing up here. My head is empty. So yeah. Next, I read Jade City by Fonda Lee. I gave this a 4.25. I was like in a bit of a slump. Like, I was just like not excited to read it. The book was really good in itself. Like, the writing was good, the plot was good. I was hooked on the plot sometimes, but like I wasn't just like itching to read it. So yeah, the same way I feel about Red Rising. Like, I liked Red Rising. I think the plot was really good. It was really well written. I'm just not itching to read Golden Sun. So maybe I should do that like sooner or later, because whatever, I have the memory of a goldfish, so like I would forget. Jade City is basically about, in their like island nation Keko, I think that's how you pronounce it, but like only the clans in the country can wear jade, and there's two rival clans basically, the Mountain Clan and the No Peak Clan, and the Call family's the No Peak Clan, and so it follows that family, what happens to them, and their like, and their rivalry basically, and how it like progresses throughout the book. That's basically it. It has a crazy thing like I wouldn't expect in the first book of a series, but like it makes sense because it like, that's kind of like the catalyst that pushes all the events forward and the plot forward. The next book I read was Indigo Ridge by Devin Perry. I gave this a 3.5. I think it's marketed as like a suspense romance, which is like a weird like label to put on a book, but that's what it's marketed as. Our main girl, Winslow, she's going to the small town because she's the new chief of police, and then she meets this guy, like one night stand basically. She meets this guy. Apparently he's like well renowned in the small town. He wants to be taken seriously because she's the youngest woman chief of police and stuff like that. Grandpa is the mayor of the town, so she wants to be taken seriously, not just like a nepo baby. So that's basically what happens. She's like, oh, I don't, and she got out of a really bad relationship, so she's like, I don't want to be with anybody. But then she meets Garrett, I think, Griffin. She meets Griffin. It was this like a mystery type plot, so she has to figure out who's killing these girls basically, and that's what happens, okay? It was good, but like, and the mystery like held my attention, so I finished this book in one sitting. I was just like, okay, I'm binging this. See, that's like, this is the start of my work break, so I was just like reading a bunch. Next, I read Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. My first Brandon Sanderson book! It was just like so epic in the sense like, oh my god, she's on this journey, and like it was just easy to follow along. It's like basically a fairy tale, basically. There were like high stakes to it, but like I wasn't like, oh my god, if the blah 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 happens, I'm gonna cry. Characters were nice. He like wrote the characters really well. He had a plot twist that was like actually fucking insane. So I was like, oh my god. I mean, it made me feel so stupid that I was like applauding Brandon Sanderson. I was like, thanks Brandon, like you really did this for me. Next, I read The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Colston. I gave this a 4.5. She wrote The Dead Romantics. I don't really remember what it was about, but I gave that like basically a 5 stars. I really liked that book. It was just good. I liked it. That's a lot of my 5 stars. I don't remember them, but I remember really liking the book. Okay, Clementine. Her aunt just died basically, and so she's like inheriting her apartment, and she like holds her aunt to such a high regard, and then apparently this apartment is magical, so she goes into the apartment one day and then she meets this guy Iwan. She meets this guy, and then apparently he's living 7 years in the past and she's over there in the future, and so it's like the timelines match up, and then they meet each other in her time, and it's like crazy. I'm like, oh my god, this is crazy. It's like so good, and they're so cute together. But yeah, it was a bunch of like, it was like not like a regular romance. It was like very like lit fic. Basically, it's almost like a Catherine Center book in that way, but like with like a little supernatural flair and some romance, but it was really good. I liked it. Next, I read Juniper Hill, which is the second book in the Eden series. I gave this a 3.5. It wasn't as good as the first one. I didn't care about the couple as much. So the main girl character, she comes in because she's like basically like thrown away from her family. So she comes to this small town and she's going to work in the hotel basically of another Eden. So like she basically runs a hotel, and then because she's like broke basically, the hotel manager, the sister Eden, she tells her that she could live in her brother's like loft area, and this is the second oldest brother. She can live in his loft area and like pay rent and stuff like that, like for very cheap. And then she's also like a single mother, so she's like having that aspect and stuff like that. The second oldest brother is the chef of the restaurant like adjoined to the hotel, so like they basically run into each other a lot. A romance forms, blah 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 blah. 3.5. Next, I read The Prison Healer like series by Lynette Nani. The first one I gave 4.5. This one was crazy. Like the plot twist that happens, like the main ending plot twist that happens was absolutely in fucking insane. They have this one big prison, and our main girl Kiva, she is like the prison healer. She's like the medic of the prison, right? She meets some people along the way, and the person that is supposedly the rebel queen, she's thrown into jail, and she has to go through these like trials about like each different element. So like a trial by fire, trial by air, trial by like water and stuff like that. And so if she survives them all, she gets freedom from the prison and just like gets to leave basically. But she's like really like hurt, so Keva goes into these trials in her place, and that's basically the book. I loved it. The plot twist at the end was fucking insane. Next book, I read these in succession. I was like so obsessed, and like this, it doesn't really happen to me anymore, like where I like go in to a series and like read all of them at the same time. I read the second book right after this, The Gilded Cage by the same author. I gave this a 4.2. No, I gave this a 4.5 again. So it basically leaves off of the first book, and I can't really say anything because it just goes off of the first book. But I felt like this book was like, the pacing wasn't as well as the other book. Like it felt slower, but the ending really made it go to a 4.5. So I was just like, okay, this like makes sense. And so I didn't question my rating. I just said this is 4.5 too, even though the first one was like better paced. This book, the writing style isn't as like showing you actions. It's more like blah blah blah, this happened. It's not very action packed, but I loved the characters and I loved like the plot of it basically, so I didn't really care about like the fact that I wasn't being shown these action sequences and I'm just like shown the aftermath. I didn't care. Next, I read The Blood Trader by the same author. This is the third book. I gave this a 5 stars. This one was insane. I think this one was like, it's definitely my favorite because I gave it a fucking 5 stars. But after the Gilded Cage, the stuff happens after that. And so it was just a really nice, all around 5 stars. I loved the Prison Healer trilogy. Loved it. Next, I read When in Rome by Sarah Adams. I gave it a 4 stars. So it was like pretty decent. It was like a nice romance book. There's no spice in it. Okay, I said some parts were cringe, and I still stand by that. Like, they were cringe. Amelia is the main girl character. Her car breaks down in front of this guy's house, and this guy was like, okay, you can stay in my house. But she's trying to run away from her pop star life because she's an international pop star basically. And this guy, his name is Noah. Noah is like, he's a pie baker. He's a baker. He owns a pie shop, and he lives in this town called Rome, Kentucky. So When in Rome. I thought this was an actual Rome, like Rome, Italy, but that makes sense. It's Rome, Kentucky, a very small town, and yeah, it's just a romance. So they meet each other and you can tell what happens. And then I read Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams. It's the second book. It like has characters from this, but one of Noah's sisters, she is a florist basically, and she's like seen as like the angel of the town. So everyone's like, oh my god, she's an angel, blah 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 blah. And Amelia's bodyguard is like seen as the bad boy bodyguard, like the playboy bodyguard, and so they fake date, and then yeah, that's what happens. I gave that a 3.75. Next, I read Between Wrath and Mercy by Jess Wisecup. I'm on the second book right now, but I will finish the second book this month. But I gave this a 4.5. It was like it's such a good romance fantasy. It's like actually like romance driven fantasy, not like just fantasy with a subplot of romance or like fantasy with romance. This is like, I would say like basically about the couple, but I kid you not, I think this is one of the best second chance romances. But this one is second chance romance fantasy. It's so good. The main guy, Rain, he's the prince, right? Emmeline, I'm gonna say Emmeline. Emmeline's sister died, and she was seen as like the beloved person, so she was like supposed to fill out this prophecy and stuff like that. And so the prince was supposed to marry her sister, and so but Rain and Emmeline had like a relationship going on, and then her sister dies, and then Emmeline is supposed to marry this other like old guy that her dad like made her marry because they're fleeting romance when they were like 18 basically. And then fast forward like 16 years later, Emmeline has a daughter. She's a life, and then her daughter gets kidnapped. So her daughter's like considered the beloved, and so like a rival kingdom kidnaps her basically. And then Emmeline and Rain and like his crew, they meet up 16 years later because she's like, I need help, I need to fucking get my daughter back. So that's what happens. Second chance romance, so good, spicy, but so good. Like there's not really much plot, like even in the second one there's not much plot, it's just vibes, and it's just like their romance is so cute that I keep reading it. But yeah. Next, I read Foxglove by Adeline Grace. This is the second book in the Belladonna series. I don't have it right now, but I have the first one. I loved Belladonna. I gave this 5 stars. And like, I went into Foxglove like kind of forgetting the plot of Belladonna. I told you, my brain is so bad. But yeah, I thought it was a really good sequel because at the end of Belladonna, you get introduced to this another character named Fate. And so we have Death and Fate. And like how they battle it out for Signa. Signa and Death were still so cute in this book, but basically it's still like a murder mystery. Like we're still like trying to find like what happened and why this happened. I said honestly low-key no plot, just vibes. Basically was like that. It was like no plot, no plot, just vibes of like Once Upon a Broken Heart where they're in that ballroom scene. Like that's basically what I pictured the whole way through. But yeah, we still get like Signa, Death, and we get added Fate now. Read between Blythe and Signa basically, and yeah, Blythe has a more prominent role in this book than the other book. Overall 4 stars. Not as good as Belladonna. but it was a good sequel. Like, I liked it, and I'm excited to read the next one because I still will read the next one. Next, I read the whole entire of the Natural series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. Let me tell you, I'm obsessed. I am obsessed with this series. It's so good. And like, I was like hell-bent on not reading it basically because I was such a fangirl of Criminal Minds. I've rewatched it countless times. I know like every scene in that in that show basically up until season 12. And like, I didn't think anything would like live up to it, so I was very nervous to read it. But everyone raved about it, and I was like, I don't know if they're lying. Girl, it's good. Like, this one book is like an episode of Criminal Minds, but it really pays off because you love the characters in this book so much. And like, I don't know, a lot of people really don't talk about the characters. Like, everyone's like, oh, the Found family's crazy, but like, I love them all so much. They bring it all to the table. So basically, these teenagers are naturals at like specific things. Cassie and Dean are profilers. Michael can read like emotions. Leah's like a lie detector basically. She can lie really easily and no one can catch her. She can also catch people in lies. And then Salone is like the calculator. She's basically Spencer Reed basically. They like recruited into the FBI in this naturals program, but they're supposed to only like solve cold cases, and then they get wrapped up in like active cases and this, yeah, it's just crazy. Let me tell you my ratings. The first one I gave 4.5. Killer Instinct, the second one, I gave 4.25. All In, I gave 3.5. I didn't really like All In that much. It's okay. Like, it was good and I liked reading about the characters, but like the case itself, I wasn't like that into. But and then Bad Blood, I gave 4.5. That's the ending, and then there's the ending epilogue 12. I gave that one like 3. I gave that one 3.5. I didn't care, but I liked seeing them all together. Like, overall, the series was just like really good. I loved them. I love the characters. I love the writing. I love Jennifer Lynn Barnes. Like, I love like crime type of things. So, yep, I'm gonna read The Brothers Hawthorne. I am gonna read that. And then I'm reading the second book in the Between Wrath and Mercy series. Okay, I'm reading Between Despair and Hope by Jess Wisecup. It's the second one. I'm like 85% done with the book, and like, it's just so good. Cause okay, the first book was basically about getting her daughter back, getting Alora back. So they get Alora back in the second book. You can probably imagine why. They get Alora back, and like, it happens like, it's like everything about like the dynamic of everyone past that point. So I'm still really liking it. It's looking up to be a 4, not as good as the first one, but it's like 3. It's like 4. Like, it's a solid book, and I would recommend it because I really liked. I like Rain and Emily. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching my August wrap up. I don't have a TBR because I'm basically going the flow. I'm going with the flow. I hope you guys enjoyed. I love you guys, and I'll catch you next time. I'll catch you on the flip side. Like, comment, subscribe, I don't know if you wanna, but I'll see you guys later.